We're here? Wonderful. Great. So time to start with the first part of the program. The panel is about unlocking the potential of women in India, and Laurel West will be the host of this panel. Laurel is currently Director of Industry and Management Research for Asia and Economist Intelligence Unit, where she drives the development of her thought leadership research and covers a territory spanning from Australia to India. Her team produces high-quality, innovative reports on a wide range of topics. Prior to taking up this post, Laurel spent 10 years as an India analyst with the EIU, editing the fortnightly report, Business India Intelligence, and writing and editing several research reports on India. Now you know what you have to do. Give a warm hand of applause for Laurel to take over the panel.
I don't know why people wouldn't be able to hear me. My children tell me that I speak quite loudly when talking to them. As I was saying, thank you very much for coming to our TEDx MasterClass this morning. We are here to talk about how to unlock the potential of women in India. Now, it's an excellent time to be talking about this specific topic. In the past few years, around the world, we've seen a real groundswell in attention being paid to women's role in the economy. Now, this spans the spectrum from the top end, where you've got organizations in developed countries like the UK, the US, and even in Hong Kong, aimed at increasing the number of women on corporate boards. This is usually known as the 30% club, because that's believed to be the magic number that you need in terms of women's representation on a board to change the corporate culture and make the entire company a better place for women to work, and to also take advantage of women's rising economic power around the world to be able to more closely target your products and services at them. In the middle of the spectrum, we've got numerous efforts aimed at not only encouraging more women to join the workforce in the first place, but also to stay at work after they hit what's known as the maternal wall, when they start having children and are tempted to drop out. There's particular emphasis on getting women on the corporate ladder and keeping them there and helping them to rise to the top of organizations. Now, at the other end of the spectrum, we've got an increasing number of development efforts focusing specifically on women. There has been a general acknowledgement that if you really want to change the world, this is where you have to target your efforts. Now, these range from multilateral organizations such as the World Bank all the way into the corporate world. We've got companies like Goldman Sachs launching fairly extensive programs. As you may know, Goldman Sachs has one called 10,000 Women, which is targeted at 43 countries and aimed at training and development and mentoring of female entrepreneurs. And here in India, we have a very strong new government with a prime minister who has already acknowledged that raising women's participation in the economy is going to be key to lifting overall growth. And he is really onto something. If you look at the 20th century, even in the developed, so-called developed world, you've got the US. In the post-war years, with the massive expansion of the workforce, this included the baby boomers, but also an increasing number of women entering the workforce. That is estimated to have added 2 percentage points to US economic growth during that period. And in Europe, a bit more recently, since 1995, the increasing participation of women in the workforce is estimated to account for 1/4 of GDP growth in Europe. So this is clearly a very important initiative for India to undertake. Now, we've already seen numerous initiatives in India, from governments, from corporates, from NGOs, as well as organizations in microfinance. And we're now seeing an increasingly, what I see as an increasingly holistic approach to the issue, where you've got things like microfinance organizations getting involved in health and education issues, with a real recognition that you can't just fix one part of the problem, you've got to look at everything. But despite all these, a lot of these programs have been in place for years, but at the moment it seems to me that there is a real feeling that on this issue and many other issues, it's really time to get down to business and to really move the needle. So what we hope to address here today are the changes that India needs to make to enable women to participate more fully in the economy and to drive economic growth, and how it can go about making the changes that are necessary. We're looking here for lots of dialogue, lots of interaction, questions and comments, and hopefully we'll even come up with a few answers. So we're going to start with brief presentations from two eminent speakers. Then we'll move into a panel discussion, and we're going to have an online poll with 4 questions you'll be asked to respond to, and we're going to then discuss your responses. And finally, we'll open up to a general Q&A from the audience. So turning to our first speaker, Mike Warmuth is the Executive Vice President of Established Pharmaceuticals at Abbott, which is a sponsor of the TEDx event. And he's also an Executive Vice President of Abbott India. He's going to talk about why India is so important to Abbott and why it is so interested in unlocking the potential of women in India. So please join me in welcoming Mike.
Thank you, Laurel, and good morning to everybody. Pleasure to have all of you join me here this morning. I'm looking around at the faces in the audience, and I know more people here than I had anticipated. So I'm a little upset that your applause for Laurel was louder than mine. But maybe at the end of my talk, you can make up for that, and you'll be really pleased with what I have to say. And I'll be watching the first 2 rows, which are primarily Abbott people. Just pay attention. I know I am. Okay. It's obviously a pleasure to be with all of you here today at the Abbott TEDxGateway MasterClass and share the stage with these really high reputation speakers. This is really a wonderful opportunity. I had a chance to chat with these speakers a little bit beforehand, and I've also done some work on Google, among other things, to learn more about them, and they've got some pretty remarkable careers. They got some remarkable stories. And it's really an honor to hear what they have to say today. So we'll move on to that, but I do want to make a few remarks on behalf of Abbott. We're very pleased to be presenting the presenting sponsor of the TEDxGateway, where we will get the chance this morning to talk to you in this forum, but then we're also going to be supporting TEDx tomorrow. I don't know what your plans are, and if you plan to join, I will certainly be there. I'm looking forward to seeing the diversity that's presented there tomorrow as well. Like TEDx, Abbott believes in innovation, collaboration, and exploring ideas. And you were invited here today because we believe you share this positivity about our collective ability to improve our future, a curiosity about how we will do so, and a commitment to making it happen when we provide the most necessary element of all of this, and that is focus. And this is an area that clearly does require that focus. Today's discussion is an opportunity to join a growing community of innovators, thinkers, and socially concerned individuals dedicated to exploring the concept of ideas worth spreading, an important key, and more specifically, ideas on unlocking the potential of women in India. So before we begin our panel, I just want to set a little context for you in 3 areas. First of all, why Abbott? Secondly, why is Abbott a key focus for us in India, for our company? And then really specifically, why are we shining a light on this issue of women and their potential in India and abroad? And I think those were some outstanding examples at the very beginning, Laurel, with what's happening in some of the other parts of the world. This is not an India-only issue, but certainly there is real opportunity here in India as well. So let me tell you a little bit about Abbott and why we're here. Our fundamental view at Abbott, the basis of our business and our long history of achievement, is that health is a foundation of which everything else is built. If you don't have good health, it's hard to build anything from a weak base. It's a critical building block for everything we do, everything we could possibly achieve as individuals and collectively, groups and societies. Better health makes it possible for each of us to realize our best lives, to fulfill our potential as people, as human beings. And when you're healthy enough to dream bigger and reach further, society grows healthier as well. And quite frankly, that was exactly the goal of Dr. Abbott, Dr. Wallace Abbott, when he started this company in 1888. As a physician, he envisioned a better way to treat his patients by delivering more effective medications. We've been doing the same thing ever since in the last 125 years plus as a company, transforming science and innovation into ways to improve health and help people live longer and better. It's that inspiration and mission which is encapsulated in our new brand identity, which is life to the fullest, which you'll be seeing a lot of in the days, weeks, and years to come. So that's why Abbott. Now, why is India so important to us as a company? At Abbott, we create new solutions, not just in pharmaceutical where I operate, but also we're represented here by Abbott leadership today from nutrition, diagnostics, vascular, medical optics. We have a large and diverse business, and we help people all around the world at all stages of life. We have 69,000 employees across the globe that are committed to shaping the future of health and advancing innovations and having a lasting impact in the more than 150 countries we serve. Over the past century, Abbott has built a strong presence. Of the 69,000 employees we have across the globe, 14,000 of them are here in India. So when we've made a commitment to India, we've made a commitment to India. We have 14,000 employees, 3 manufacturing sites, and 2 R&D centers. So not only is India an important consumer market for us, it's also one of our largest employee bases. And finally, why are we convening a discussion on unlocking the potential of women in India? Women are the gatekeepers of health. That's not an opinion, that is a fact. In most studies, they say that women make up to about 80% of the healthcare decisions for their families. In my family, I think it's closer to 100%. Better health helps women not only unlock their own potential, but also that their families, their communities, and society as a whole. Good health allows people to live their best and fullest lives. For some, that translates into feats such as sporting events or contributing to the development of other women, which you'll hear stories of today. And you will hear that from one of our panelists here in Ms. Sinha. For others, it means career success and personal accomplishments while also taking care of their family. That is a significant challenge in and of itself. And when you combine the two, it is very, very powerful. But good health is just one of the key enablers to women in society in general. At Abbott, we understand the potential that exists in everyone and what people can achieve not only through better health, but also through access to other important levers such as education and skill building, as well as economic empowerment. The truth is both men and women, through partnerships like the one we have with TEDxGateway in Mumbai, we are dedicated to fostering and inspiring that potential to truly allow women to live life to their fullest. Since Abbott arrived in India over a century ago, the role of women in society has evolved dramatically. Women have made their way into the executive offices. I was listening closely to your comments. In both the public and private sector, yet as Laurel pointed out, there are still a lot of strides to be made, and there are many, this is true for many places around the globe. That is not unique to India. Several studies have found a positive correlation between companies and more women in senior leadership boards, on the board of directors, as well as senior executive positions. And the facts show that it results in better financial performance for the company. Yet despite all of this, only 3.6% of the Fortune 500 CEOs are women, and only about 15% of the Fortune 500 executive board, the executive seats, are women. Highly, highly underrepresented. And I believe the magic number you had indicated was around 30%. I was listening. In India, women comprised only 24% of the workforce. Increasing the opportunities for women in India can bring significant positive impact to the economy. And there was a reference made earlier today to Prime Minister Modi. He recently was quoted as saying, "Every woman has entrepreneurial qualities and values. Women will become stakeholders in decision making if they are financially independent." If India has to increase its GDP, we have to increase the participation of women in our economy, end quote. Very clear, very powerful, very to the point. At Abbott, we clearly value diversity, that of people, products, technologies, and geography, and we believe that diverse perspectives combined with shared goals inspire new ideas and better ways of addressing the changing needs. We are interested in exploring how women in India can unlock their potential and more importantly, inspire other women to do the same. We strive to do our part to empower women. For the 14th consecutive year, Abbott has been recognized in Working Mother magazine as a top 100 company, and we're frequently in the top 10 of all companies surveyed. In our case, women make up more than 44% of Abbott's management and nearly half of the total workforce. In executive management, representation of women has increased almost 70% in the last 10 years, and we have 4 of the 10 board members that are women on Abbott's board of directors. And because I'm so good at math, I believe that's 40%. Yes, okay. Just wanted to point that out in case the Economist is going to write anything about that. Okay. Since 2009, the Abbott Fund has provided almost $500,000 in grants to Cornerstone, a nonprofit dedicated to providing marginalized and underserved adolescent girls in India with the skills necessary to bounce back from adversity. Cornerstone, working with local partner SNEA, delivers a 6-month training program that combines a foundational resilience curriculum with comprehensive training in adolescent health. By the end of 2015, the program will have trained 50,000 adolescent girls. The program has demonstrated measurable improvements across a range of mental and behavioral health, social skills, and academic indicators. Powerful metrics. This isn't just investing or somehow a do-good deed. This has to be meaningful, it has to matter, and the metrics are proving it does matter, and we're able to measure it as such. In addition to providing access to programs, Abbott provides opportunities for women to be empowered and make decisions that will lead to more jobs and benefit not only them, but their entire family. And as I said before, when you empower families, you also empower the society. One example is our partnership with TechnoServe, a global nonprofit that develops business solutions for poverty by linking people with information, capital, and markets. With their help, Abbott is providing a core set of training for women dairy farmers to improve their technical and business literacy skills. This skill set will allow dairy farmers to serve the growing local demand for nutritional products in a substantial way, addressing issues like food security and, as importantly, improving the economic stability of their family. With all of this being said, it's a wonderful opportunity for Abbott to be here today to partner with such an esteemed group. I really, from a very personal level, I look forward to these kinds of opportunities. I've been with this company 29 years. We've done some amazing work. We've done some amazing work in India. And I am really pleased that we continue to have platforms to be able to facilitate and to help. And this isn't just about creating the Abbott brand. Everything that you're hearing about here is a strongly held belief that we have as company leaders. And you're going to hear from some powerful individuals on this panel. I'm very excited to hear what type of challenging questions you will put forward. And I'm also quite excited to hear what we do as a result of this. So this just does not become a point-in-time discussion, but what do we do to actually take action to move this agenda forward is critical for all of us. Not just women, not just India. It's critical for society. It's critical for the economy. You have to believe that. I can assure you I personally believe that. With that, I'm going to turn it back to Laurel to introduce the panel. And I am so excited to hear just how loud the applause is going to be from the first 2 rows of this group. It's going to be outstanding. Thank you.
Give it up for Michael. Thank you very much, Mike. Now I'd like to introduce our second speaker. Very chivalrous of you to take the blame. I'm sure many of you are very familiar with our next speaker. Chaitanya Galasina is, among many other things, the founder of Mandesha Yogini, a rural business school here in Maharashtra that has trained 9,000 women in business development. She has also developed a microfinance bank that has lent money to over 127,000 clients, and she is a Yale University World Fellow. Please join me in welcoming Chaitanya. Are you going to speak from here? Or are we doing a video first? Okay. There we go.
Women is potential and also an aspiration.
Traditionally, India has a culture of savings, and especially in rural India, poverty drives people to save up in whatever ways they can for rainy days.
She came to me and she said that I went to different banks and to open a saving account, but banks are not opening. I felt if these banks are not opening her account, why not start a bank for women like Kantabai and others? That's how we started the process of setting up the bank. We mobilized the capital in the village and applied for the banking license. Reserve Bank rejected the license, saying that we cannot issue a license to the bank whose promoting members are non-literate. I was nervous. I was crying in the bus that we tried so hard and we couldn't get the license. You know what? What women said? They said that, so what? We'll learn to read and write and apply again. And the literacy classes started from that day evening. Our women used to come and learn to read and write. After 5 months, we applied again for the banking license.
Today, Mandeshi Bank is the first cooperative bank offering its services to more than 180,000 women across 9 districts of rural Maharashtra. Nearly 90% of these women earn less than 50 rupees a day.
Many women would come to the bank, take a loan for different businesses. One of the women, Vanita Pise, she set up a business of paper cups, but she was making losses. She defaulted on the first loan. We just asked Vanita, what is the problem? She said that I cannot market the product. So then we thought, why not start a business school for women like Vanita?
Mandeshi, an idea that began with an aim to help women open simple bank accounts, became India's first rural business school for women. Its students include goat herders, tea sellers, daily wage earners, and so on. Today, the school receives 40 visiting students each year from international business schools, including Harvard, Yale, MIT, and Johns Hopkins.
However, there was still some problem. Some of the women would not come forward, and the reason was that their families were not supportive. So we thought, why not make these women famous? So we started community radio.
श्रोते हो नमस्कार.
The community radio became a platform for successful women entrepreneurs to share the stories of their triumph. This in turn became an amazing catalyst for other women looking for their family's approval to start their journeys as well.
To me, potential of women is not doing something for herself or for family. They inspire other women. Together, they change the society. We have achieved so much, but this is just beginning.
That is a fabulous video. I think it's already given us a lot of answers to some of the issues that we face. But you're going to talk a bit more about your organization?
Actually, I just saw the video. I mean, I had not seen the video. And it was so interesting to see our women sitting in the radio. I mean, I am based there, but then still to see that was like, making me both humbled and proud. So I would just share some stories. What makes it something very passionate and interesting for women to go forward? Or you have one picture where statistics were stated, like where women are. Or we talk about women, we say that in India you will see many women who are so successful as a CEO in the company. You will see many women who are so successful as a politician. You will see many women who are bankers. And in spite of that, a lot of numbers were given that women are not, there is no presence of women in certain areas. There are some individual women, but there is no presence. And I would just like to share another statistics is that we talk of economic growth of India. We talk of economic growth of women because then the household will be empowered if women are, economically empowered. But if you see the number that in India, in the sector of micro entrepreneurship or micro enterprise in unorganized, 100% of micro enterprise in India are not registered. Only 97% are registered. So the whole sector has been left out. But within that, only 2% of micro enterprise are owned by women. And these are the numbers. I mean, these are the people as small entrepreneurs, small micro enterprise. They are going to bring the growth in this country. We have big houses, big industrial houses. But we know that those houses are not going to increase our GDP growth. Our GDP growth will increase if these micro women entrepreneurs, they rise, they flourish. I will just share a story and would end there. One woman, I mean, she was on the video also. She makes a spice powder. Her name is Surekha. And Surekha came to the bank. She took a loan. And I'm not talking about microfinance loan. I'm trying to say that now we need to go from GLG, SHG, small loans to a little bit of a bigger loan where women can start a business, own businesses. So she started a spice powder business and was earning and repaid the loan. She took a second loan. Then she took a third loan and she said that I would request bank to give me this loan without guarantor. And she was a very good repayer, so bank agreed. She bought a property, a plot of land to construct the better house for the family. After she got a property papers in her name, after 8 days, 2 old men came to the bank. And they were like, we never realized such a great thing has happened in our family, and I wasn't sure what they were talking. And they said, one man who was a father of Surekha, he said that my daughter has bought a plot of land in her name. I never thought that she's so talented. I didn't let her go for a higher education. I got her married at the age of 15. I made such a big mistake. And the other man was father-in-law of Surekha. He said, I'm so proud that I have a daughter-in-law who bought a house for the family. So what I'm trying to say is that we know, government will give quotas, everything, but what do we need? We need such fathers and father-in-law for our women who will provide the dignity and value to their efforts. If they get it, you saw how they can change the whole, not only just household, but the whole country. And so I would just end with this story and say that it's just so humbling to talk to all of you, and was so humbling to watch the video. But I would say that there are so many Surekhas are there, and they need the support, and they need a proper infrastructure where they can flourish their business. And if they are expanding their business, we will have a GDP of 8%, which everybody is talking. It's not difficult. We can do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chaitanya. I wonder, have you ever considered running for Prime Minister?
Oh my God. my God.
I think that we'll discuss it later. I think it would be a great idea. Before we get on with our panel, I'd just like to set the scene with a few observations and throw my 2 cents in about how to unlock the potential of women in India. And let's start with a few facts here. I don't mean to insult your intelligence with these facts, but I'm working on the premise here that if you're looking for a hotel in a new city, the worst thing you can do is ask a local. I'm sure that you see all of the things that I'm going to mention before your eyes, but you might not have an idea of the extent of the issues or problems here. First of all, just on the population, how many women are there in India? There are 586.5 million females in India. Now, of that, 243 million of these are between 25 and 54 years of age. You consider these are the prime economic earners. These are the wives, the mothers who are raising the next generation of women. Now, the literacy rate for women in India is just 65%. Now, this has been improving in time, both in terms of absolute numbers and also in terms of the gender gap. But that 65% figure, it's interesting to note, is for those over the age of 7 years. If you look at those over the age of 15 years, those who are finishing school, maybe going on to higher education, or at least should be, the figure drops to 55%. And I think everybody would agree that that absolutely has to be improved. Turning to the work world, the figures I saw vary between 21 and 24% of urban women work. In rural India, 80% of women work, but this is often in areas such as agricultural laboring. Is there an opportunity for women to do more in terms of paid work? I'd hope there is, but just to make reference to an index that the Economist Intelligence Unit put together a couple of years ago with the World Bank and a couple of other parties called the Women's Economic Opportunity Index. Now, this was based on issues like labor policy and practice, access to finance, education and training, women's social and legal status, and the general business environment. Now, India ranked 98th out of 128 in terms of the economic opportunities for women. And even when it's compared amongst its lower middle income country peers, it ranked 25th out of 39. Now, all those categories that I mentioned, India's worst score was in education and training. We'll get into that a bit more later. Health. Some absolutely dire figures here, which probably don't come as a surprise to some of you. More than half of Indian women develop anemia due to lack of essential nutrients. Every year, 123,000 women are diagnosed with cervical cancer and 68,000 die from it. Now, that mortality rate is almost double the global average. And it's not hard to understand why that is. Only between 2.6% and 5% of Indian women, and that's the rural-urban divide, are screened for cervical cancer, which is routine in many other parts of the world. This compares with the screening rate, compares with 68 to 84% in developed countries. So how can India improve all of this? That's what we're here to talk about today. There is so much to do. In finance, as Chaitanya was talking about, you've got issues of both literacy and of access. Education, to my mind, this is a huge factor. We're not just talking about the number of girls who go to school or go on to higher education. It's basics such as education on basic health issues, on basic safety issues for themselves and their families, and on hygiene, as Mr. Modi has made very clear is going to be a priority here. It's education of men on why it's necessary to help make it possible for women to be more actively involved in the economy, and also, indeed, to show respect for women and to allow them dignity. And I know your Prime Minister has also spoken on that. And I think, critically, it's about education of women on how they can help other women. Most of the work that I do in this area involves women in the corporate world. And I can tell you that mentoring has become a real mantra. It's been recognized as probably the single most effective thing that a corporation can do to help women rise up the ranks, is set up a mentoring program of women mentoring women. But this doesn't just apply to the corporate world. I mean, there are examples popping up that it's very effective in the social sphere as well. And this is not just in developing countries. In fact, one of the most interesting cases I've seen is in the US, where there have been programs set up to help women, single mothers, get above the poverty line. And one of the really interesting ones is called Circles, where single mothers living below the poverty line are matched with 2 or 3 mentors among middle-class women who support them over the longer period of time just by giving them advice on simple things like budgeting and how to prepare themselves to find a better job and all this kind of thing. But the most important thing that they provide is support and advice and friendship. And I think women, this is not to exclude men from the equation here, but I think women make a huge difference to other women simply because they can relate to one another. You know, the world over, regardless of your social situation, we all face the same issues. It's a matter of degree. And women are the natural nurturers in society. And I would like to imagine what it would be like if India were to launch a large-scale program aimed at making women aware of how they can help each other. I think that the cascade effect of that would be incredible. Now I'd like to introduce our other panelists. I hope they're ready to come up. First is my co-moderator. He's someone who will also be very familiar to you, I'm sure. Anant Rangaswamy has been in the media business for over 23 years. He is currently editor of Storyboard on CNBC and also a senior editor of FirstPost.com. Welcome, Anant. We also have Rajendra Pratap Gupta, who is president of the Disease Management Association of India. And he was involved in drafting the manifesto for the BJP government, which has come to power. And he also has a long and distinguished career in public policy on the healthcare sector. Please welcome Rajendra. We have Chetna Galasina, who you've already met. And we have Zinia Tata, who has worked in international development across 20 countries over the last 22 years. She's a social entrepreneur who started 6 social enterprises. She is also leading X Prize's global expansion by designing and launching exciting prizes to address failures in the traditional global development sector, which I can't wait to hear about. Before we get into really specific questions, I'd first like to ask panelists for your initial thoughts on this topic. Where do you see India on the way to unlocking the potential of women? I mean, do you feel that there is a growing determination to really tackle this head on? Chetna, can we begin with you?
I mean, if you just see that how many, just do a study of in India in microfinance, what women have done, because I come from that sector, so would like to address those issues. And you just do a study that what has happened with the money which has gone to the pocket of women in microfinance. What has happened? Just think for a while. And you will find out that the studies have come and reports have come that that money has gone in the education of children. It's all this money where women take a loan or use it, they are using for the education of children. And it's not just educating them, it's also creating the India's future citizen. So I feel that actually if women get more opportunities, if women get more scope, what happens or what change happens? These are the changes you see in the rural India. And I would just like to share another example about younger women. How do they see? Because these young women they have so much of aspiration. I would share another example that a young girl, after completing her 10th grade, she came to the bank after completing her 8th grade. And she said that, I want to open a saving account. We were like, how much you are not earning, so how will you save? She said, whatever pocket money I get, I will save. And what will you do with that money, because it is such a small amount? She said, you know what, after 10th grade, I want to go to higher education, to college. And my parents will not be able to finance that or give me money, because the first number will come for my brothers. And if anything remains, will come to me for myself. So then she says that I know this money is not enough, but I will bargain with my parents that I have saved this much. How much are you going to put? This is the aspiration in rural India you see with the younger population. So just imagine that this is the aspiration, if we give the opportunities to these young women in India, how India can change. And so I see there is so much of energy, there is so much of passion and aspiration. It's matter of providing an opportunities. And what are the opportunities? Opportunities are not very expensive. It's very simple. How many of us are ready to invest in the education of girls at a higher education? You will see they will prove. And then you will have a women professionals who are going to change the lives. So I see that there is so much of aspiration, so much of passion. It's matter of just investing in that and finding out the different ways. And I don't see that, it's just only philanthropy. Invest in young women and get a very good professionals. Companies should think in that way. Invest in such venture capital companies who are working for women entrepreneurs. There is such a big gap. I mean, all these women who are asking to start the enterprise and loan of 100,000, 200,000, 500,000. We don't have any companies, banks, systems which will deliver to them these loans. So it's very important that how are we going to fill that gap, that missing gap, and we do not have any ecosystem for that, and everything has to be viable. So even grant and everything is fine, but are we ready to take a risk in those ventures? Are we ready to take a risk and provide a loan to women to start a business? She may not have collateral, and it's not only just risk, but also study the cash flows of these women, design the product. I was just yesterday also was mentioning, we would like to do research in big things. We don't like to do research on a woman who is selling a chai and vada pav, a street stall on the road, what is her cash flow and what type of credit product she wants. We are not interested in that. That is second. And third, which I always say, that there will be failures, but we need to have a patience for that. And at the end, I would say that whatever statistics you said, if we do this, we will have women who own property, who sits on the board, who will start the businesses and will be as proud as you saw women in the movie. Thank you.
Senior, would you like to go next?
Sure. I'd like to talk about Middle India, because Chetna has covered rural India really well. But Middle India, and the same really goes for a lot of other countries in Asia and a lot of countries across Africa, Latin America. It's not that different. And I'd like to talk about innovation and women and where the gaps are, because there are huge gaps there. And the reasons for those gaps are very similar to what Chetna was talking about in the rural areas. When you talk about innovation, entrepreneurship, I think it's pretty clear that that's what we're talking about as a path to success for women's empowerment here. But when you talk about those two words, think about the first thing that comes to your mind. Courage, risk, kind of an exploratory attitude. Those are usually associated with masculine attributes. Those are not typically feminine attributes. And so to do real innovation, sure. So when we start talking about, women need to get more innovative, we need to have more women entrepreneurs, we need to seed them, we need to finance them, but their own mindset also needs to change. They need to feel empowered to have that courage, to be able to take that risk. And I think more incubators, more innovation hubs, even at the rural level. More, if you've ever heard the term Fab Labs, I have a wonderful, brilliant friend, Professor Amy Smith at MIT, who started the D Lab at MIT. She just started taking tools and going to Uganda, going to Kenya, and putting tools in the hands of women at the base of the pyramid and seeing what they would create. And then she started advancing those tools all the way up to 3D printers. And it's amazing the ideas and thoughts that these women came up with and there was nothing. We showed them how a 3D printer worked, and then we left them to play with it. And it's amazing at the end of the day how they felt that printer could actually enhance their lives. There was no education, there was no, talking about the first thing you need to get is a smartphone. We just put a 3D printer in a village on the table and said, here's what this can do. So those kind of leaps are necessary, but to make that kind of leap, you have to trust all the way around that the courage and the risk it's safe to bring that to the table. So that's what I'd like to add as something new for us to think about in India.
Thank you. Rajendra, do you think we've got momentum?
Yes, we have an empowered panel. We are 40%. So my math is not bad either, So I think we started. I would like to put it, I had the experience on the policy side, defining what the government would do if we, came to power. This was a question that always sparked our minds. I think we always talk about empowerment. I wouldn't be here if there was no women. So I think the generations get empowered because of women. Women may not have got empowered. That's another story. Now, the point is, it's enlightenment. Once women get enlightened, or there's a self-awakening about what they can do, empowerment happens. So enlightenment comes before empowerment. And the second thing I think very rightly Gita talked about is we don't need quotas and dole-outs and all that. That's a fact. Entitlement is not empowerment. History is replete with evidences that reservations, though required, do not lead you where you want to go. They don't fulfill your vision. So empowerment is a different thing altogether. When it comes to women in India, is how I would simply put it as F3, not F1 racing. You actually need family to support you in what you want to do. You need fitness. If you're not healthy, you will never achieve what you want to do. And then it's finances. It's not actually that you should have or you should own the money, but there should be an enabling ecosystem that provides you what you need to do. These are the fundamental things. So when it came to defining what we should be doing over the next 5 years, one of the first thought that came is, okay, how do we put the title of the topic in our manifesto? It was the nation builder. That I think captures and conveys what's our vision for women in this country. We see them as a nation builder. There are a whole lot of things that have been put in, where we will do, I think, very rightly put as concerns. We have tried to put, like she said, there should be a bank. We talked about a specially dedicated mobile bank for women, dedicated incubators for women in every district. Then you have got women MSME clusters, strict implementation of laws. See, empowerment is not something that you can thrust on people. No one got empowered because you thrust it. It has to be a pull. It can't be a push. You don't need to tell women. And the other thing, is always I say, like everyone knows, that egg, when it breaks on its own, there is a life. But when you break it externally, you know what comes out. So I think women just give them an enabling ecosystem, and let them self-realize. So what you actually need to do is to create role models. How many role models are there in India today which can, kind of inspire people? And when do you inspire people? When they're mid-age or the mid-age crisis? No. You actually have to do in the formative years. So if you are looking at a solution, how do you empower women? Have role models. She's a great role model. Get them to interact with people when they're in the formative years, in the teens. Whereas they pick up something and say, look, I need to be doing something like that. They'll find their own way. And that will be the real empowered individuals, where they don't need any entitlement. They'll just break free and break the barriers to success. Thanks.
Thank you.
No? No? Yeah.
Oh, you're good.
Chetan, start from you. take off from what Rajendra was saying. He spoke about family, fitness, and finances. The 3 Fs. Now, 2 Fs. There's a large role that, shall we say, organizations, institutions have to play in sort of health and in finances. But family seems to be a key to everything. Whether that's the girl you spoke about who got pocket money. She's a lucky girl. She got the pocket money. 90% of the girls in rural India won't get pocket money. The boys will. So what can we do to change the mindset, like we were discussing yesterday, of the family?
So I'll just say that how did we try? I mean, because my whole experience is working with women in rural India, setting up the bank. We were talking about the health, and you were talking about the statistics of anemia and all that. You know what we did? In every year we have one award. In the award is that if the women has better hemoglobin, we do we do the blood checking of testing of our women, and if she has a better hemoglobin, her husband is given an award, and it's a big thing. Now, why we do it? It's very simple. That because we know that in India, in rural families, women eat last, women eat least. Yes, but then how do you do it? In the awareness program, you say that, oh, do this for women, do this. It doesn't work. Especially with men, everything works when they are really given an award. Appreciated. Create a role model. So, similarly we did with the young girls. That a father who invests in daughter's education will get an award. I'll tell you, we got a justice of Mumbai High Court to come there and give an award to this father who has invested in daughter's higher education. Husband who co-owns the property of women with his wife, share the property, gets an award. Because why I'm saying these things is that when you want to break these barriers, when you want a dignity for women, when you want a real entitlement for women, as you mentioned, it doesn't come only from quota, though I'm not against quota, very honestly. But it comes from where you really provide them, and how that comes is you share with them. And that is not in our family structure. So it has to, like you mentioned, we need to create a role model in women. I say we need to create a role model in men. Right? That is the thing. And if we have those men, no wonder society is going to change. I see a lot of hopes. We saw so many men coming on the road in Delhi about the safety of their young daughters. And that made that whole movement very different. It was not a women's movement at that time. It was a movement of whole society, and everybody had to think about it. And on 15th August, the first thing Prime Minister of India told from the Lal Killa was that our fathers and mothers thinking that what their sons are doing on the road. Have they thought about that? How did that happen? Because fathers came on the road and talked about, I am going to send my daughter on the road in Delhi, but I also want a safety. I'm not going to talk about what she's going to wear and what not. She has to be safer on the road of Delhi. So I think this is the dignity which has to come from the family. It is not coming naturally. So there are different ways. Awards, quota, yes, and we create a role model. Thank you.
So on a lighter note, taking cue from Chetna, we'll call men better halves.
We can pass this on to Zenia. Zenia, I just want to ask you, there are a lot of elements which come together in attempting to solve this issue. But they can't be done serially, they have to be done parallelly. So how do you deal with the complexity of this family, health, finance, all to be done at the same time? And right now, yesterday we spoke about how our demographic dividend is not going to last forever. So we've got to change the lives of our young women. We've got to do it now. And we can't say we'll start in 2025. Those days are gone. So how do you prioritize, and what do you tackle first? Is it health that gets tackled? Is it the finance that gets tackled? Or making, the family attitude change?
Well, I do believe that it's fundamentally an attitude change.
Right.
And I also do believe, and I'm going to talk a little broadly beyond India because my work has spanned so many other countries as well, and you see a lot of similar issues. And the family, the men, they know about the importance of women. They know how critical all of this is. We just have to, like Chaitanya was saying, bring it to light in different ways. So if you look across Africa, 80% of all the food grown in Africa is grown by women. The men know that. They know who's working the farm. Even in a country like Bangladesh, where I've worked quite extensively, in rural Bangladesh, the men go shopping because the women are usually behind parda and they're not going to go out to the market. However, the women are making decisions on what farm technology to buy. You know, they're making those spending decisions. So people know where the power lies in that sense, and that is almost disempowering in a way, and so it comes out in other ways, you know. And so we need to capitalize on the fact that, again, as Chetna said, you know, making the men feel good about making these decisions. I'll give you an example. I started a social enterprise in a couple of African countries for maternal neonatal health. One of the big reasons children die and mothers die in childbirth, or there are complications in birth, which, you know, causes birth defects, etc., is because women are going to traditional birth attendants. These are not even midwives. Midwives are very sophisticated compared to a traditional birth attendant. So, for example, in West Africa, these women are the ones who are also in charge of the female circumcision. So you can imagine how barbaric their methods are. So the whole, you know, we were trying a lot of different things, and nothing was working in order for the family to bring the woman to a clinic. And the mother-in-law would say, I gave birth to, you know, all my sons in the field, you can do it too, or whatever, you know, the stereotypes. So again, we started including and putting front and center men in the care of women. So we had traditional birth attendants that would go, we were retraining them, and then they would go out with a man, and while the woman, the birth attendant or the midwife, was inside the house or the hut talking to the women, the man, who was her co-worker, would be outside talking to the husband, talking to the men, educating him on how important it is for the life of their child, for the future of their child, for the future of the village, educating him on things like when a mother dies, usually a child doesn't make it in most of these rural areas beyond the age of 7. All kinds of horrible things happen. Starvation, hunger, etc., especially when the father remarries, you know, and disease, etc. So again, the education of men, man to man, providing inadvertently those role models is what really changed the equation. So I think the men in rural areas definitely know, and the power of women, they understand it. They just have to be encouraged to act on it collectively as well as individually.
I'm just going to jump in here with one follow-up question here. All of the things we've been talking about here, absolutely fabulous, and more of that needs to happen. But it sounds like they're, you know, all kind of in pockets on a smaller scale. How do we get scale on this, which is how you move the needle? Vijendra, do you have any thoughts on that? Or shall I pass to the...
You can repeat and then I can. Because I feel sandwiched as one of the only persons in the world. Go ahead.
Are we objectifying you?
See, he's a moderator, I'm the only male in the panel. Never.
So we'll let the girls talk. You listen. Okay, you got my question there, was how do we achieve scale in efforts like this?
See, I'm trying to be a role model there.
Oh, that's a really, really difficult question, actually. I mean, in development work, scale is the beast we have not been able to tame. I'm going to let Chetna answer the rural part of this in terms of scale. I'm going to take on the middle India, in the urban India outlook on this. And I think, again, we have the statistics, engineering colleges, etc. Colleges in general have, there's more women enrollment, etc. But then what? There is no encouragement after that. So I think at, college, high school, those ages are really, really good times for women to have role models and mentors coming into classrooms, talking to them about potential, and then from a very early age, and then as they go into higher education, real opportunities being put in front of them. And not just the traditional opportunities, but encouraging non-linear thinking, encouraging non-traditional opportunities in invention, in innovation, in business, in entrepreneurship. And usually when women get involved in these things, my experience has been from meeting amazing women from BOP to TOP, base to the top of the pyramid, all around the world. When women get involved in entrepreneurship and invention and innovation, there's always a social angle to it. There always just is. It's in our nurturing nature, So again, I think having a good nationwide mentoring program that starts with middle school, moves to higher education, and then at higher education, having those dedicated circles, labs, whatever, incubators, whatever you want to call them, but that help women find their voice and create those opportunities for them with invention, with innovation, with business, with entrepreneurship.
I would say that when it comes to scale, people like me who have started Mandeshi Bank, many people would say that why can't we have hundreds of Mandeshi? Or many people would say that why can't Mandeshi become global? It's not easy. But at the same time, I do see that scale can come. And how can it come? There are two sectors who bring the scale in the society. One is a corporate world, and second is the government. And I think that we cannot ignore government at all, because scale will come from there only. I'm not just talking about policy changes, or I don't think that we need to teach government or something, awareness. No, it's only whatever delivery systems are there of the government. How can we engage government teachers, primary school teachers in platform like this? I just want to share that I've seen so many primary school teachers who are themselves frustrated because they cannot deliver what they want. How are we going to engage them? If we engage them, the scale will come. If we engage them, the whole education system, and see that the young girls who want to go for higher education, they can get the hostels to stay there so that they can go for higher education. It's not a big thing. It's a very small program which can be implemented at a national level, and the scale will come. So, and again, I would say on the other side now, the scale comes with the corporate world or the mainstream sector. I'm not just saying corporate world, but mainstream sector. Say, for example, I was talking about this young girls bank. If the biggest bank in India starts a Deshi Girls Bank, don't you think the scale will come? If they have in every branch a corner which talks about the saving for young girls, parents will come forward and save for the daughters also. But I think that all these things has to come from the mainstream sector, and mainstream sector also has to think. I just end with one thing, that we are talking about financial literacy at every level, from Reserve Bank, from SEBI, from banking. We are talking that financial literacy should be there. Yesterday, Mr. Puri, UTI chairman, was talking that people are saving. For first two installment, they will save, and further they will not. So we say that we do financial literacy, which means that we teach people. Fine. But is that enough? Or that will solve the problem? No. As earlier it was mentioned that you go to people when they have money. if you just say that, yeah, you want to save, you should save. You know, I'll just end with this experience with one of our women. We were talking about financial literacy and saving program, and one woman said that, yes, I want to save, but I cannot come to the bank. So you need to find the solution that how bank can go to her, and not only once in a month, based on her cash flow. If she requires daily it will go. Try to work out the product which are going to be sustainable. People are ready to pay. Don't think that people want only grants and all that. We have a Jan Dhan Yojana which was declared. I was so surprised. The next day, more than 30 women came to the bank and they said, we want to open an account for Jan Dhan Yojana. Now the second thing was that 5,000 rupees will be given as an overdraft facility. You need to provide a financial literacy for that. And then again, the proper delivery system, that if they take overdraft, they need to repay also. And for repayment, are we putting the system? Or we talk of it, we advocate, we tell people, and then we don't provide any delivery system? It's not going to work. So I think scale comes that way, that mainstream sector has to come aggressively and create the channels, delivery channels and ecosystem which are viable, and things will change. Thank you.
The beauty of the panel is everyone has a viewpoint, and I'm using the freedom of speech, that I have. So the first thing is, I don't know whether scale is the right word. It's replicability. So if you want just her to scale nationally, I think it would be a disaster for others to do. The issue is how to have an ecosystem that you can replicate success. Now, how does that happen? You asked, how do we scale? If you have to answer that question, like our Prime Minister clearly said, don't ask your daughters, ask your sons. So you need a leader at the top talking those things. You need people at the bottom, at the micro level, implementing those things. A family has to change its mindsets, going with times, and it's not something that you can change immediately. As I think you mentioned, it's a clear drawn out process. So if you pick up people today in the formative years, by the time they cross teen and they get into the stage where they actually realize the power of being empowered, that's something that you have to work on simultaneously. Smaller things like, then you divide something that is urgent and important. The urgent is we have a serious issue in terms of women's security. First, plug that. Provide them finances. I think already government has made announcements, also started implementing things on that. So that is something that you got to do right now, but something for long term, for women or children who are just got into school or not even got into school. You got to plug that right from the education system. So that is all, it's a very complicated question, so from many standpoints you can look at it and try to answer it. But the fact remains that everything has to start simultaneously. You can't say, okay, we'll do it first. So it's like when a sapling is growing, you can't say first we'll give sunlight, then we'll give water, and then we'll give urea. You have to give everything in the same time. So I think that's how it will scale up. Rather replicate. I would more be in favor to use the word replication rather than scaling. Let's not use the corporate jargon for women empowerment. I'm sure they will pick up on their own.
Thanks. Just looking at the time here, I think we should take a poll on a couple of these issues. And I'm sorry I missed the explanation of how this works. If you could please do us a favor.
Maybe I chime in here with the poll device that you have found on your chairs. Maybe you found the chairs, but you don't, the poll devices, but you don't hear me. This is this little thing, and you have the A to F buttons. You don't have to use the finger, the printer, whatever it is. Just press A to, how many options will we have? We have 6 options?
On some questions we have 3, some we have 4.
So how many options we ever have, do the connection to the letters here and just use this. I think it's 10 seconds after the question until the poll closes, so don't wait too long with your answers.
Thank you very much. Everybody got that? Okay, let's start with the first question. What do you think is the most important factor that helps women or could help women reach their potential? And we've got a choice here between skill development, family support, financial inclusion, healthy lifestyle. It's an interesting side effect. Family support. I think we have a consensus. Okay, let's turn to the next one. The one I would like to ask. Yes. Do you think that women... Sorry, what did I do? Women in India would help other women in their sphere of influence to unlock their potential? Yes. That's very impressive. I don't think that actually comes as a surprise to me somewhat. Does it to you?
Yes, yes.
Why don't you guys make a comment on that?
We're what, 1.25 billion people, and like you said, almost 50% women. We're all competing for so much here, right? At all levels. I mean, competing for space, competing for water, competing for just about everything, any kind of opportunities. I think India is probably the most competitive place on the planet that I've ever worked, at all levels. And it's the same for men and women. And so that is why I was unsure. I would have done not sure on this, even though I've seen, on rural side, great examples, but they're one-off examples. It's very competitive here, and so we're all kind of grabbing what we can in a lot of ways. So that's just the truth, ugly truth.
Thank you. Chaitanya?
Many times after having a women bank, women staff, totally women staff and all that, we have a hard time, really hard time. I mean, many times I come to a point where I said that did I made a mistake that continuously claiming all women bank, all women managers, all women staff. No, it becomes so difficult. Our human resource manager, she doesn't have a time to sleep. That is her. So one thing, there is a surprise. And second comment I would like to make is, you know what? Don't disown the responsibility. I'm telling men now. No, don't disown the responsibility. Even men should help women, that is one. But I know everybody is helping. But I want to address one another issue. What is the problem that continuously we talk of women helping women? Why? But crude reality in rural India, if men starts helping women, what happens? You know what happens? There are comments on the roads, and I'm saying, ये तो अपनी बीवी का ही सुनता है. तो तर आपल्या बायकोचंच ऐकतो, त्याचं बायकोच सगळं ठरवते. These comments come up, so it's very important that men help women. That would be a very different, diverse culture and very rich also, because that the worst part is that you make it a very much laughable subject, which happens with women politically in India. So if you want to stop that, it is much that men also help women. That would be great.
Thank you. As my friend here just pointed out, how many women are in the
I'll
audience?
try to flip the question. How many men are in the room? Can you raise your hands? See, they're all helping women, Chetna. See, we won't be 79% if they didn't it. But I agree, there has to be a change in mindset on how we look at the things. Traditionally, they have, we all have a habit, whether it's India or US or Europe. This is the way things have been happening for generations. I think this is something that we need to stop and change our approach. Yeah. But I think empathy is something that we all have for everyone. Women have to help men have to help women. That's how it is. Thanks.
So I think we'll disregard the results of that last question. Finally, I'm just going to ask one more before we open it up to a general Q&A. This is the one. Who should lead this effort to help women unlock their potential? Women, government, companies, men? Our political advisor says they'll be divided. think they've drank the Kool-Aid.
When I raised, the panel was uneven.
Okay, great. I'd like to throw it open to questions, comments, suggestions from the floor. Thank you. Could you please identify yourself and address your question? Sorry, I'm pointing to the gentleman in the pink shirt here to start. He was first with his hand up. Yes, that's one.
Hi, my name is Srinivas. I work as an independent consultant. As the panel discussion was progressing, I received an email from the White House newsletter, and this is what President Obama writes. Women who work full-time still earn just 78 cents for every dollar that men earn. That's why President Obama supports the Paycheck Fairness Act. My question to the panelists is, in India, this gap is going to be much more wider. How do you think we can address this effectively at all the spheres, whether it's work or otherwise? Thank you.
Would you like to identify one person you'd like the answer from? Anybody?
That sounds good for you, Vedant.
Easier for me to answer because from the government side there is no disparity in terms of who gets what. Everyone gets equal. So actually you are pushing the question to the corporates. Yeah, I think the corporates have to. On the corporates also I don't see any issue except when it comes to contractors or the subcontractors. I think that is where we need legal provisions, we need society awareness, and we need activism. All three to make it happen. That's the only way to happen.
In this case, my experience shows that how do you make it happen? One thing I've seen that if you equip women with technology, see, naturally it happens that men are always with technology. I'll just give you a simple example of construction industry. That in construction, men would do the work which is used more technology at a lower level, I'm saying, like really a daily wage earner or whatever. But women will have that bricks on the head, right? So what we did was that we convinced our women laborers that why don't you use a small trailer which can be connected to the crane, and then that goes up. And immediately their contractors raised their wages. Why? Because they are equipped with the technology. They are coming at a level of men. Right? It's not just that you give, because the person who is employing needs also the returns. So you have to create that infrastructure for women to be equipped with men in everything like technology, education and all that. And if that happens, and you have to do it with a specific pressure, consider it as a special agenda. And then it will be, you see women computer engineers. They are not. But still you do see that in scientists, research, you don't find women there. It's not just only that. And there again the family thing comes that, how much time they can give for the work.
Thank you. Next question? Yes.
Hi, good morning. I'm Dr. Nimita Lemay from Tata Consultancy Services. And I must say, a very impressive and inspiring discussion. Chetna ji, some of the episodes that you shared really were very moving about how women have actually challenged the system and tried to achieve something. But at the same time, I wanted to go back to the example that Xenia shared about 3D printers. And I think one thing that strikes me as an individual is that as women we have many skills, empathy, sensitivity, and we juggle so many things very effectively. But one thing which we perhaps don't do enough, we spoke about what men need to change, but what women need to change is to develop a mindset of challenging the system. And that's where I go back to the example that you gave. Why do women accept being slotted into a role, into a position? You made a comment that, a lot of young women have aspirations. I think every woman sitting in this room is where she is because she had some aspirations. So how do we develop that mindset in women to challenge the system and say, no, this is not what I'm okay with. This is where I want to go. This is what I want to achieve. I want to think differently. You spoke about lateral thinking, and yes, and I think women are very creative, very innovative. What can we do to change their own thinking and say, well, irrespective of who is trying to control them in the system, in the society, in their family, and say, no, I want to do it this way, and this is where I'll go.
I think exposure is the first thing. So, first of all, women need to be exposed to opportunities, and even learning opportunities is what I'm talking about now. Learning opportunities that can unlock another side to them and be able to be encouraged to take risk and try. So let's talk about technology, right? Because I think that's might be in some situations a little bit of a gap where women may not be as bold to try new technologies, will probably not be early adopters of new technology, etc. So if they won't even be that, then how do we expect them to invent and innovate around technology to better themselves, as it were? So so the exposure is the first thing. The 3D printer example in the village was really to push the edge, right? I mean, that's to say that even there you can, it was the same thing about putting up a laptop and getting some connectivity, or saying, here are things you can do on here. What would you do in a slum? There's so many projects like that. So it's exposure is the absolute first step, but not just exposure to things we feel that would meet their needs better, like, meet the softer side better, but really allowing them to see where the edge of technology is, to see where the edge of opportunity is, to talk about, again, pushing the edge here, to talk about space flight, to talk about why it is important for India to have a good space program. Even though, yes, there may not be enough water and sanitation, the advances that are made in space are things we all use every day today. So again, to start talking to women like they can and will understand the entire picture. And that's what I feel is lacking. And that's what I feel is really lacking, frankly, in international development, in rural development. We're talking to them at their level, which is great, because we do want them to double and triple their income, etc. But let's expand their horizons a little more as well. So
I would say thank you for this question, but because I would like to now tell something about personally. See, many people ask me the question that how do you take care of your personal life and professional life, family and profession? And I ask them that, do you ask this question to men? Nobody, right? So, but then I don't say that, oh, I give time to my kids and this, which I'm not doing it. And then I take this. So women also have to say that, we don't do this. And if we don't do this, I'm fine with it. You have to accept that, and I see that acceptance is not with women. I'll just tell you another experience of mine. My son was writing an essay about mother, right, in school. He studied in a village school. He said, my mom gets up at 5:30 a.m., she gives water to Tulsi, she does that, she does that. I told my son that, your mom is not doing it. Why are you writing this? He said, teacher will not give me marks. So, it's that, that society makes you become selfless, be nice, so good, and that is told to women and men both, and they do that way, and then they get scared of it. So I think you have to just be liberal and free, which is very difficult. Very difficult. In our impact assessment, we have one question to ask women: at what time you get up? Very few women who have really liberated themselves, they laugh and quietly say, nowadays I get up at 7 o'clock. Before I used to get up at 5:30. So it's very difficult. But thank you.
Thank you, Chaitanya. You'd like to say something?
A brief comment on that. I have seen in rural India how things change for women. It actually started with self-help groups. The collective power of women can change things that you can't even imagine. They broke the traditional, kind of things that happened for centuries when 20 women got together and they questioned their husband because she was not alone. That's where the change starts. Thank you.
Yeah, can I just, in this hall, we all are there. And I think the beautiful speakers and the panel, a very, very, very big thank you for that. But having said this, I'm from a corporate world. My name is Anu, and I work in a company. I go to the rural areas for recruiting, and What I see something is very alarming is this, that across urban, middle, rural, the decision for a girl is not with the girl. I have to speak to their parents if they are selected that my company is safe. I can actually take care of their employment. I have to actually speak to their so many. Then the mother says okay, the father says no. And I spend a lot of time talking to these parents. So coming from this, one thing which is like starkly clear to, at least, from the little study that I have done is this. I think it starts with the family. Even here in my organization, if a lady, if she has a sick child, how many of the men are actually taking leave? The company needs to go forward and say that it's a joint responsibility. Let's not say man or woman or any other gender, but I think it has to be inclusive. And a time has come now when I think we should, how many of the men here can actually say that if their parents are sick, they are sitting at home and looking after that? No, it's the women. And then we say at the workplace, this woman is taking too much of leave. So I think, right from, the instances that were given, a roti available extra, ladki ko de dete hain. Ladki ko kyun nahi? But it's not ladki versus ladka. I think, the mindset change we need to bring is this, that in our own homes, how many of our men are we asking them to shoulder equal responsibility? Let's start there from this unit. I think, we can start spreading this across, because it's not going to happen this way. That, we can take smaller groups, there will be breakthroughs, there will be so many things, but I think at every level, and women being raped anywhere, why all this is, I think, we need to understand that woman is an ardhangi in the true sense of it. If a girl child, there are too many social issues, but we start with the family and we start taking this responsibility that yes, women and a boy or a girl, we give them the same respect. Yes, for saying yes, but actually when you really look into the family, I don't know, at least in my circle, I am disillusioned. I'm totally disillusioned to see sometimes, yes, there are very, very powerful families where I have seen this happening. And I've seen very poor families where they have got equal gender, that also I have seen. And this is something, it's not dependent on the social status. And we need to think this through, that this is not a problem only of the lowest class. It is a problem. It's an issue which we need to address fairly and squarely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Would anybody like to make a quick comment? Unfortunately, I believe we're out of time, but we can maybe have one more very quick.
Yeah, I'm Rakesh.
Okay.
I want to make a...
I just wanted to carry this point further.
Working? Yeah, I'm Rakesh, and I want to make a suggestion to the learned audience. But before that, a word about our daughter. We are sitting here in peace and discussing all this because people like our daughter is manning the borders. She's an officer in the army, and that's not about all. I'll pass it on to her. She is postgraduate in banking and finance. Then she was a lecturer in one of the premier colleges in Mumbai, KC College to be precise. Then she was a manager in bank, HDFC Bank. She left all that and joined the uniformed force so that we can sit here in peace and discuss. The suggestion I want to make is, I think which has not come up for any consideration, and through this platform and through media, I want to pass it on to the rest of the population. We need to bring a social change where women are accepted as breadwinner of the family. A lot of people are earning a lot of money, small money, more money, and big money, but they are not accepted as breadwinners of the family. So that social change, we have to somehow ignite and bring in the society. There's my small suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, one more.
I don't think it's on. I don't need this.
Okay, just speak loudly.
Just two things. Chetnaji, the video. I was very happy to see the fact that there is a radio station that the women were set up on their own. My name is Sandeep Gori, and I'm from April Broadcast. We're actually doing the live streaming tomorrow. That will happen. We have technology that can help set up a television station, and I'd like to offer that to you. The second thing is, I'm probably going to be a little more unpopular for saying this, especially with Mr. Gupta. You see, we are talking of empowering women and making them feel safe. There have been news reports in the papers of certain, groups making certain derogatory statements on women and, their dress code and things like that. If the government is serious about trying to make the place safer for women, why doesn't it come out openly and snub such groups so that, in future, nobody else...
I think we should give him a chance to.
Would you like to comment on that, Jada? And then we're going to have to.
The first point, you are still more popular. Don't worry. On the other side, see, government has its own way of functioning. It's not that you say something, it becomes a law. And there's implementation also follows its own road. So I'm sure that in the times ahead, when Prime Minister has been clearly making statements of what he wants to see, it's going to get happening. You need to wait with time. In a country as large as this, things have to move faster than ever before. And this is what exactly he's trying to do. Yeah, thanks.
I have one question. I just want to say, Zenia, that's the question for you. My name's Geeta Rao. Recently...
Can we keep this as the last question because you absolutely run out of time.
I think we need more radical solutions than the ones that have come up. Google and Facebook recently announced that they would be paying the full medical costs of women employees who decided to freeze their eggs. Now, the minute you bring reproduction and HR policies, there are two ways of looking at it, but the minute you bring HR policies and reproductive choices into the workplace, I think it makes changes. If we don't have radical solutions and we're going by the same traditional templates, some of the things we heard today have been things we've been studying from college. And that's slow change. If you want to make a real change, perhaps we need radical change. But I'd love to know your view on it, Zinia.
Very, very quickly.
So I work for a techno-futurist organization and looking to bridge, bring things that would happen 100 years in a linear manner in the future to solve crises in water and hunger and other things, trying to make them happen today instead. So radical change is the mantra. You're absolutely right. I mean, radical change has to come at all levels, and you're talking very specifically about women in the workplace. What they did is very, very radical. But there are many, but yet there are other things that aren't so radical in most other companies across the world. And the pay differential that the gentleman here was pointing out, I mean, that still exists very openly in America. And so you're absolutely right. Those radical leaps need to happen. I assume there's a lot of suits in the audience in terms of from the corporate world. It starts with you. There are lessons to be learned and new ones to be brought to market. So have at it. Think differently, and hopefully we were able to inspire you a little bit, and then learn from your peers and do something really different in your companies. Really, really inclusive. Just open up the word inclusive and think of things that really have not been done before, even if it means a couple of years of ridicule in the beginning, because that is obvious. That will always happen. But be bold.
Great, thank you very much. I'm going to turn it over to Anant now to make a few closing remarks, and I'm afraid we really have to draw a line under it.
It's not the easiest thing to sort of sum up this discussion, but I'll try. To begin with, it was only a few months ago that I'd ever heard of both Chetna and Zenia. And I think that's a bit of a shame, because I read a lot and I consume a lot of media in my natural course of events. I've never heard of them. And it's only when I got videos for curation for TED that I had heard of them for the first time. And that really is the essence of the story. They're great stories, and these stories are not being told, they're not being amplified. I think that's a big part. What the panel said, the need for role models. Role models, there are great success stories of them as individuals, and then the stories of their creations. Now, for example, if I have not heard of Chetna's Bank, that's a shame. Because if people had heard of Chetna's Bank, the replicability that Rajendra spoke of, could see another 25 similar banks opening across the country. And this is not new to India. We've seen replicability. We've seen, with the milk movement, Operation Flood. And it's not as if Amul went across the country. You had many, many small units which went across the country. We've seen it with Lijjat Papad. We've seen all of them. But that starts with knowing the story of Chetna's Bank. Then you can replicate. You spoke about the need for a mindset change. Now, there are people, like the last two speakers, I think, impatient about the change. The truth is, the optimism comes from the fact that we're having more and more conversations about this issue. It's being reported about in the media. It's being discussed in even pubs by men and women. We discussed it last night, we're discussing today. We discuss again tomorrow. Corporates are investing in the conversations, and that's good. Abbott has done so today. Some other brand will do so tomorrow. The fact is, it is out of the closet. It is a conversation which cannot be stopped anymore. And to me, that's optimism. The fact that we've got a very senior government functionary who's taken a horribly early morning flight to be here is, for me, room for optimism as well. I mean, he took a 5 o'clock flight, I think, 5:30, I think. So then I think there's broad consensus that we need the 3 Fs. His party has been very clever at acronyms and anagrams and stuff like that. So I'll stick like that. So family, fitness, and finances. Yeah, family, fitness, and finances. And it's clear that all 3 are required. It's not one or the other. And I'm going to close with how he described how we prioritize family, friends, and finances, which is, you must think of it as growing a sapling. You can't say, first I'll give it water, then I'll give it fertilizer, then I'll give it sunlight. It's got to be done at the same time. Thank you so much, all of you.